Alright, so last time I said I was going to come back to this concept and do some concept sketches, right? Well, here we are, and we did start with concept sketches of Willow, even though I did do some, I did the actual illustration for Willow already. I did want to double back and do the actual concept sketches, just because maybe I'd come up with something different. I didn't, but I do like how she turned out. Where these were just more so basic concept sketches and figuring out things, I did want to try and do things in a little bit more of a simplistic, almost Pokemon-esque style. And I do like how this turned out, like I said. Willow, again, is very pretty, and I enjoy drawing her in general, especially in like pretty ballet clothes. And I stuck with the same outfit and everything just because I wanted to get through hers quick because I'd already drawn her. But again, I do like how this turned out. I think she's very pretty. And I did have a lot of fun drawing her like this in more of a simple pose. I still went for more of a ballerina pose. I thought that would be very good for communicating that she is still a dancer, even though this would be a Pokemon universe kind of thing. She'd still be a performer and a dancer, so she would definitely be a coordinator. And she has some very pretty routines, I think, with her Pokemon, and that she comes up with and choreographs for the two Pokemon that she really focuses on, as well as ones where they join her in her performances. Because I really liked that idea that whenever someone has companion Pokemon, they tend to be involved in most aspects of their life. They're not just like a pet, they're a partner, because they are a intelligent creature in the Pokemon universe. Like, they clearly aren't just animals. You can tell with all of that. So, I really like the idea of them participating in her shows and getting involved, and she choreographs things around them. She does a few water-based ones because of course, Swanna and Milotic, they both, Swan's water, Milotic's a water Pokemon. And so I wanted to do it that way, and I thought it would be really nice. Like I said, I stuck with the same kind of outfit, even though I did simplify the design of the way I drew her a bit more, which I really liked, but I struggled a little bit with, especially in the face, because I wanted to make sure I still gave her that proper shape of the nose. And it was a lot of fun to do, and I do really like how she turned out for this. Now, I am going to be having to break this up. Like I said, I might have to do... I was going to do 4 in this one, 4 in the next one, but with the way this has turned out, I think I'm going to have to do 3 because I'm still having to take it easy on my elbow. I found out I officially got diagnosed with tennis elbow, so I'm going to have to do things to take care of my elbow and ease the strain and the soreness before I can really get back into drawing as seriously as I was before. But it's nice to know what's going on and have a fix for that. But because of that, I had to do 3 in this one. I'll probably do 3 in the next one, and the remaining 2 in the last part. So that's probably how these are going to be structured. So with this one, we've got 2 of the girls and 1 of the boys. Next one will probably be 2 of the boys, 1 of the girls, and then the last one will be 1 boy, 1 girl. Just because that comes out to the roster, because I ended up with kind of a split in my roster, which I really like that I did. And I do like the idea where I did Willow first. I wanted to do her first. I do, in retrospect, think that maybe I should have chosen some more flying type Pokemon for her. But overall, I do think these fit better than general flying types would have. So that is, like I said in the last video, why I wanted to go with Swanna and Milotic. I'm not sure if it's Milotic or Milotic. I don't know. Milotic. Anyway, I really wanted to go with those 2, and I really enjoyed getting to draw them, although it was a little bit difficult. I ultimately went with looking at official art and following the poses for the official art and just your typical profile drawings of them that you see. With Swanna especially, because birds are something I have a little bit of a harder time with. I need to practice with drawing wings a bit more, so there is a bit of a learning curve there for me with birds in particular. So I'm going to have to practice a lot more to properly get the hang of drawing the birds, because I don't know that any others of my particular ones have bird Pokemon, but I do have a couple more that have wings. So learning how to draw wings and studying the mechanics and such for wings is going to be a bit of a necessity. But that's also getting me out of my comfort zone and drawing animals a bit more and doing some more studies on things that I probably should have done studies on before, but just haven't up to this point. Now, as such, I ended up with a very generic pose for Swanna. I did for all of them, really, for all of the Pokemon that I drew. But with Swanna especially, I just took that pose that I honestly really do like, because it looks like it's got it's a hands on the hips pose, and I kind of love it. It looks very sassy and cute and funny, and I very much enjoy how that turned out and how it looks, because it portrays the exact attitude that I feel like a Swanna owned by Willow would have. Just a lot of an attitude, a little bit of a diva. And I, again, like I did in the last one, I went with a bit more different colors than you would usually see on the official Pokemon for it, just because I enjoy that variation. And I realize we've swapped to Milotic now, but I just wanted to toss that in there, that I do like to add the variation in for Swanna, because I think it's interesting and pretty. But getting into Milotic, I went with essentially a very similar one as I did for the actual pose in the illustration. Just a bit more simple and following the profile one. Again, you've got one that's made a bit more like a snake, which makes it a little bit easy whenever you've got a snake Pokemon, because it can just... well, it can make it easier in a way, but also frustrating, because you don't have as much that you can do with it. There's only so much you can do, which does limit you. But at the same time, it made it pretty simple to get just a simplistic and easy to do pose for me to put together for Milotic, for Swanna, for Milotic and Swanna for Willow. That went pretty well with her just standing there in just your basic pose. And I think that ultimately turned out very well. I think it was useful, and it functioned in a way that helped. And I do like the way that the Milotic looks, but I might go back at one point and do one with a bit more variations, because I think that would be really pretty and interesting to do and would be a lot of fun. And because I like doing those variations on different Pokemon, just because it makes it a bit more fun. It gives, as an artist, it gives a bit more creative liberties and a few more things that I can actually do with it. But I do like how it turned out. I did very simple shading on both of them, just like I did on Willow. It was very simple. It wasn't meant to be very overly complicated and really in-depth, because these are just more so concept drawings, because that lets me get several of them done. And I might do this kind of thing with turning other things into characters at one point. I think that could be fun. So now we've got all of them together with this, and all, Willow with both, I can't talk, Willow with both of her Pokemon, and I think that would be good. So, getting into the next one, we are getting into Hawthorne. And I enjoyed doing his, although picking his Pokemon was a bit difficult. I did enjoy it. Getting his pose down was also a little bit difficult, because I didn't want to go with like a super shy, reserved pose, almost like I did with Willow, even though he is very quiet and withdrawn, but I did want to get your typical standing Pokemon trainer pose with him holding a Pokeball. His outfit was a little bit more difficult, because I didn't just want to do, button-down shirt and a sweater vest, because that was just so typical. I did go with a bit more dress shoes, almost kind of slacks, sort of, and then a hoodie over top of the sweater vest and the button-down, and I do like how that turned out. The colors, I really like them. He wears a lot of purple because his element is thunder, lightning, all that. And for some reason, I have always associated that with, like, yellow and purple. I don't know why. I just do. So that's what I went with for his color scheme. He wears a lot of purple, which I really like. and I stuck with for that. And I like how it turned out. He's got a little bit of a more reserved facial expression, but he looks like he might be willing to battle maybe if you ask, but he will feel more like he's pressured to and like he has to. So he doesn't really want to. Pokemon battles are not as much his thing, and he does not enjoy it so much. I feel like he'd be one of those who's more of a... I think he would just be one of those kind of people who takes care of and maybe grooms Pokemon. He just really likes them. They're very sweet and he likes to care for them. And he is just very sweet and he loves animals, and as does his sister. And I think that it just works out really well. He strikes me as one of those people who would just be so attached to his Pokemon and his partner Pokemon especially. And he wouldn't want to have catch too many because he wants to be able to give each of them kind of the attention and care that they deserve overall. I think it's something that would be very important to him. And I do like how his design turns out, even though he looks a little bit unsure. That fits very well for his character. And I think it's just very fitting in general for pretty much what I'm trying to get across with the concept drawings, because these are very simple and very plain. I think his actual illustration will be a lot more in-depth and a lot more interesting, but that's something that'll probably be pretty consistent for all of them. I don't think with the concept drawings I'm going to get into as much of their personality showing too much with it, because it's just a matter of nailing down a design and figuring out what Pokemon they would have and what Pokemon they would click with, really. So that's a lot of fun. And figuring out the Pokemon for everyone was the hardest part. So I think it was really fun, and I liked simplifying his design to lean a bit more into a Pokemon style. It's still not completely, it's still much more my style, but I did enjoy leaning into it a little bit more and a little bit more intensely, because it was just a lot of fun to do. And again, like I mentioned a minute ago, I would like to do some more things of turning insert thing here into characters, and turning insert thing here into magical girls or magical boys. I think that would be a lot of fun to do. If you have any suggestions, let me know down below, because I would absolutely love to hear them. I love hearing ideas for things like that. I think it would be a lot of fun, because I'm really enjoying designing things and designing characters and drawing them. Also, if you guys would like to see any of my characters for my other series that I have in the works, definitely let me know. I think it would be a lot of fun to do and very interesting and fun to share it if you guys want to see it. But with Trace, I'm definitely having a lot of fun with the little Pokemon crossover illustrations. I'm going to have definitely a full series of them, with all of them with their two primary partner Pokemon, just because I think that would be perfect and a lot of fun. I'm still working on how I'll do the backgrounds for all of them. I like how Willow's turned out, but I'm not sure how I'm going to do the background for Hawthorne's in particular. His is a little bit more difficult for me. Now, getting into which Pokemon he has, I couldn't not give my Thunder person a Raichu. I had to give him a Raichu, and I had to do the Alolan Raichu because it's cute and it's more rounded and it's adorable, and I feel like he would absolutely love the Alolan Raichu. So I had to, I couldn't not. It's one of my favorite Pokemon, so I had to, especially because one of my top favorite starters doesn't really end up with anybody having one of it in this. So I thought I had to put one of my other favorites in here, because Raichu is I've always liked Raichu a bit more than Pikachu. Sorry, not sorry. It's just always been more of my favorite. I think it has a more interesting design, it's cooler looking, and it's just a lot of fun to look at. And I think that the Raichu he has is a little bit daydreamy. It's a psychic thunder, all that, but he's a bit dreamy. I think it's a very out there, daydreamy type of Pokemon, and his especially is, and I think that's really cute. It loves to essentially surf through the air on its tail. It gets distracted with that sometimes and runs into things, but it's adorable. And I think it follows after Hawthorne, and I think he's had it since it was a Pichu. So it's just something that was really fun to come up with. And I think that his Pichu, which eventually becomes his Raichu, was his first Pokemon. So I really liked drawing the Alolan Raichu. It was a little bit harder, but I did enjoy it, and I like how it turned out. So that was nice. Now, his other Pokemon was a little bit more difficult for me, and it ended up being, I'm going to call it a Leopard, because that's just what I call it. Because I'm not sure if that's how you actually pronounce it, but that's how I'm going to pronounce it. So, I really like that one. It seemed fitting because it is cat-based, and it's still got the purple and yellow for the thunder colors that I use. But really, one of the reasons why I picked it was because I think it's got dark, and it's a cat, which I think is neat. Especially because I'm going to go ahead and say that his fictional creature, mythical creature is a Feldgeister, and it's one that takes the form of a cat. So, dark, cat, and storms, I thought it was fitting, so I really liked it. Boy, this thing was hard to draw. I had a lot of trouble getting the proportions right and getting everything right for it. It was really difficult, and it gave me a lot of trouble. I don't know why. I didn't expect it to give me that much trouble, but it just did, and I think it goes back to not being used to drawing animals. And again, this making me step out of my comfort zone. I think I'm going to have a lot of fun whenever I go to do the illustration, because it'll be different posing, not just your basic profile posing. So that's going to be a challenge, but I think it's a challenge that I'm going to enjoy. But it's going to require looking up a few studies and really getting the handle on cat anatomy, especially big cats. So, there's that. So here he is with his Pokemon. I think that he is a very sweet-natured trainer, and I just think that it would be fun. And I love him. And I got distracted before we even got over to Clover, didn't I? So I really wanted to do Clover because she is the group baby, and doing her was a lot of fun. Getting her design, I had to do that energetic kid pose, just with the arm up and the Pokeball in hand. And she's clearly excited. She's about to jump into a Pokemon battle because she entirely would. She would be so eager to jump into a Pokemon battle first chance she gets. Now that said, she's eager to jump into a battle, is excited whenever her Pokemon makes an attack on another Pokemon, but if you hurt her Pokemon, she will absolutely burst into tears and try to fight you herself. Because that's just how Clover is. She was a lot of fun to draw. Getting the colors right was a little bit harder, but I really do like how she turned out. She just absolutely embodies that rambunctious, excited kid energy, which is entirely her, so that just fits perfect and works wonderfully. And it was a little bit of a challenge to get that pose just right, especially with the Pokeball in the hand. And sometimes that kind of posing can be a little bit more difficult for me. I don't know why, but I really enjoyed it looking like she was just jumping up, eager and excitable. And she definitely has her Pokemon with her all the time. They are her constant companions, and she loves them so much. And she is a shenanigan, and given the Pokemon that I give her, I think that fits perfect, especially one of them. But ultimately, she is a shenanigan just in general, and her older sister gets very frustrated trying to keep track of her sometimes, especially because her and her Pokemon will just run off. Where'd they go? I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows except Clover herself, because she loves to do things like that and run off and get into trouble and all of that, because she is just a typical child. But she's a lot of fun, and I love her, and she's adorable, and I think she is so enthusiastic and excited about her Pokemon, but she's also the type who would find, like, the most scary looking and mean Pokemon around, like mean individual of like a more scary looking species, and befriend it immediately with no problem, and everybody else is terrified of it, and she's just like, this is my new friend. And I think it's just perfect for her. It completely encapsulates her personality just in the best way. She is one of those kids who knows no fear, really, and has no interest in knowing any fear, which is very entertaining, especially with kids, because you know they will eventually encounter something they're scared of, but until then she fears nothing, and she will not believe that fear exists and does not understand why other people are scared of things. So it's just, she is just a fun little character, and I had to give her little, you know, low pigtails, and she's just so fun. I love the little overall dress, and with the t-shirt, it's very cute, especially with the high socks. It works perfectly, especially with the tennis shoes. She runs around, still likes to look cute, but will get into everything if you let her. But she was so much fun to draw. And I think she turned out pretty good, especially with the bit more simplistic Pokemon style. Because I think, at least in my style, kids look a bit better if they're a bit more simplistic, and I have trouble with that, so the Pokemon style, leaning towards it a little bit, does help me get a better grasp on that, and do a bit better with that, and not overly detailing my characters too much. So for this one, the sketching for the Pokemon, I actually did a little bit differently than I did with the others. With the other two, I did each Pokemon separately, you know, sketch, line, color, shade, and then I did the other one. But with this one, I kind of went back and forth. I don't know why, I just wanted to go back and forth with this one. So the first one that we have that is hers is a Noivern, which I thought was perfect because her transformation is like a bat wyvern, is what her like mythical guardian creature for her element, which is dark, is. So a Noivern was just perfect. It's got those dragon qualities, but it's also like just, it's a big bat, and I think they look really cool, and I really like the colors of them. I do think I should have gone for lighter colors on her outfit once I do get started coloring things, because she kind of blends into the Noivern a little bit, or I should have posed it differently so it's not behind her. But I think it works very well. And another thing that I really like about it is that her other Pokemon is a Zorua, which they strike me as so mischievous and so cute, and it was just a perfect one for her because she is mischievous and cute. So the combination of both of them together is one reason why there are so many shenanigans. You've got the Noivern who tries to keep an eye on them and keep them from getting into too much trouble, but it can only do so much, and it can't do that much to dissuade either of them from getting into too much trouble. So, you know, it does what it can, but it can't do too much. But I do like how it turned out. I just went with basic designs, basic colors for both of them, but I do think whenever I do the full illustration, I'm going to pose things a bit better. But what I'm really going to do is maybe adjust the colors on Clover's outfit and Clover's design, because I definitely went a bit too dark given all the other dark colors for the Pokemon for this one. So it's one of those that I will be revisiting whenever I do the actual illustration for the whole process. But I think hers is going to turn out really neat. I like the posing that I did for the Noivern, and I think that Pokemon's really cool looking. I really liked seeing it and coming across it in Pokemon Snap. It's cool looking, it's neat, it's fun, and I really like it, and because I really like bats anyway. I'm not as fond of Zubat, but I don't know many people who are. But I do really like the Noivern, and it's just cool looking. It looks neat, and it looks big and scary, and I love that it looks big and scary, but its trainer is this adorable little girl who, if you hurt her Pokemon, will actively fight you herself. And I love that so much. And I love all of them together with this. I like the way the concept turned out, even with the color issues. I do think this is one that turns out in a way that I really, really like, and is really fun to have put together like this. So it's neat, it's a lot of fun, and I like it. But I'm having a lot of fun with these in general. So with the others, the other elements that we've got, we've covered wind, dark, and lightning or thunder in this. So I am curious, what Pokemon do you think are going to be picked for the other elements? Because we've got, Earth and all of that, just the typical ones. But I like how all of these turned out. Whoops, all 3 of these turned out. And I think that the rest of them are going to turn out really cool too. So thank you guys so much for watching. This was a lot of fun to do. And I want to thank my patrons, Inside Chaos, Salmon, and Creativa Artly. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!